All right, so this is again another example shared with me on doing these kind of triangulated shade structures. You'll see that in uh, throughout, like that there's some that have like more of a square, some have triangles, some are kind of a mix. In this one, we're just going to focus on creating the triangulated kind of shade structure. When it gets to the rectangle, it's a little more complicated. But for now, we can look at how we create this example. And again, this is something that you see pretty common uh, in various design projects to get this. Again, this one is showing a variety of different shapes, but it shouldn't be too difficult to get us to at least begin to mimic some of those ideas. So again, here's the end product. Very simple script to do so as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, new document. Um, the one thing that you really just start off with is by drawing this kind of volume. So this is just using the box. So you can literally just kind of draw however, basically how wide, how narrow, whatever those parameters are for your shade structure itself. So I'm just going to stick with this one, and I'm going to reference it as a B rep. And I'm going to use the vector grid and populate it 3D. So start to fill it with a bunch of points. And I don't want these to be really dense or small. So I'm going to have a much smaller count of points. So there you go. And I'll go ahead and hide this as well. I'll keep this kind of rectangle just so we can kind of see what that volume or that envelope is. Now from here, I'm going to go to Mesh, Triangulation, and I'm going to use the Delaney mesh. The reason I want to use the Delaney mesh because it is going to create a triangulated mesh in which I can get the edges from there. So then I'll go to Analysis and do Face Boundaries. So now you'll see that I've actually got these closed curves, which is exactly what I want. And I'll go ahead and turn that off. So now we're starting to get to that. And from here, I want to begin to uh, treat them all kind of unique, right? So what I want to do now is go ahead and graph these. So you can turn that off. And from here, this is where we start to deconstruct and do all our kind of triangulation of it. So I'm going to go to the curve. I'm going to go to the curve tab, analysis, and I'm going to uh, which one was it again? Oh, we just simply exploded. So sorry, a little bit of a brain fart there. So I'm going to go to, yeah, curve, utility, explode. So we have all our segments. What I also want to do for these is find the area. So this is kind of what helps us get our tangent lines to create that triangulation. And so from our segments, we can start to use our endpoints. So there's our endpoints. I'll turn this off. And basically what we're going to do is kind of find the direction from our starts to the center and our ends to that center. And we want to kind of keep them separate as well. So I'm going to go to vector, vector. So again, I'm using from the start points to the center point of these triangles. Copy and paste that. And now do the endpoints to that center line. So I just have to switch that. And so here we get actual direction. So again, this is what's going to control our new curves for our triangle. So I'll turn that off. And I'm also going to use these links to kind of help us determine how much we want to do that. So I can go to curve now and do spline. And then like I said, I'm going to use the Bezier span to do that. So it needs the actual start point. So we're going to use this one. And then our endpoint is going to be the B. And then we're going to use this vector and our uh, lengths to get our actual this value. So we'll go to vector, vector, and amplitude. So we're using the direction for both of these. And like I said, we want to use the length and a percentage of that length to give us our two values there. So I'm going to go to math, multiply, I'm going to do that for both of these. So copy and paste. So again, the length goes into the amplitude. And again, I want to make sure that they all have the same percentage. So I'll just use something like 0.25 for now. You'll see how it starts to, actually I'll use something, yeah, we'll use something like 0.25. I believe maybe we'll use something much higher. It's kind of one of those things that you don't know until you actually do it, but now we start to get that triangulation part of it. So I'll turn all of this off. And so if I want to increase that, I can always drag that up, right? So yeah, we can stick with something like this. So it's a little hard to kind of tell, but we can see this is a triangle, that's a triangle, and then there's these kind of empty spaces in between. And so from there, we're going to rejoin them. So I'm going to go to curve, utility, and join. And from here, we can actually start to create the solid surface. I'm going to turn that off. And I'm going to, again, use my center points as a part of this. So I'm going to turn this off again, go to surface, freeform, and use the patch. And again, what's great is that's all grafted, so that's fine there. And the point, we want to actually move those down a little bit to give it a little bit of a dip. So I'm going to use Z and do something like -5 less than 0. Actually, let's give it several decimals. There we go, and now I can even plug that into there. So again, that way it goes down, it dips down a little bit in some of these areas. We can even increase the flexibility to help. So I'm gonna use something, let's see what I used in that last one, because this, again, I don't wanna mess with it too much. Flexibility of 5. So again, now they'll start to have a slight kind of dip down in those as well. And in order to kind of have a little bit more of a dynamic pattern, all we want to do is take this and copy and paste it. Choose maybe a few less points, another seed value. So we can see what this looks like in comparison. And now all I have to do is go ahead and add that to the selection, and everything will kind of build off of that. So it will take kind of a second, but now we get a much more kind of dynamic of overlapping triangles and this kind of space in between it. So that's where we can kind of start to have something really interesting in terms of some volume to it. So like I said, pretty simple script to get that triangulation. We'll look at other iterations as well to use a variety of other shapes, but you can't really tell much. It almost looks like the way things overlap, it starts to create different shapes beyond just a triangle. So it's kind of up to you in that sense. And obviously it still needs a support structure, but that's a whole nother kind of process that we can look at another time, because there's a lot of different kind of options to do for that as well. But for now, we'll just kind of end with these triangulated sail shade structure.